All right, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. I'm doing another tier list, every playoff game tier list, and for Lamar, unfortunately, he doesn't have a ton. Only 6 games to discuss. Now, a big part of this has been, he's gotten injured towards the end of the year multiple times, and that's kind of part of why there isn't as many. And some people might wonder, why am I even bothering doing this, right? Why am I even making this sort of tier list because there is such few amount of games? Well, I thought it would just be interesting because there is so much discussion about with Lamar Jackson. How is he as a playoff performer? Is he a playoff choker? That's constantly a discussion that gets brought up. And I thought making it in a tier list could be a great way to kind of visualize, does he actually underperform in the playoffs, or is he fine? Are things maybe overblown a bit? I think it's interesting. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. Although, actually, I guess a little bit more further ado, if that's how you say that. I don't know what that means, really. Just real quick, wanted to plug the movie channel. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about movies and stuff like that. The link is in the description if you're interested in that kind of thing. But, yeah. Again, now without further ado, let's get into the tier list. Starting off, we're going to go in chronological order. So starting off with his first playoff game was against the Chargers in his rookie season. If you remember, Flacco started that year as the starter, but kind of wasn't going great. They were floating around 500 and said, let's make a change. Lamar had come in and played some snaps as like a Taysom Hill type and done well. So they made the call to say, let's just have him go there full time, and he was good there. It worked out. He was a really good starter, was definitely kind of a quote-unquote running back in this era. This was not his best game. He had a sub-500 completion percentage, if you care about that kind of thing. He really started off not getting a lot done, and the Chargers, if you remember, they put like a bunch of defensive backs out there. Like they were like, we're going to have speed. We're going to figure out a way to slow you down. It was a great defensive game plan by the Chargers. Lamar eventually, it was actually, I think, kind of an important game for what Lamar would have ultimately become, because they eventually said, we just got to start passing. And once they did that, he actually did all right, and they nearly came back and won that game. It was a little bit too little too late. Lamar also got hurt toward the end of this game, so RG3 actually led to kind of the hopeful game-winning drive, which was a bummer for the Ravens. But not one of his best. Is it fair to put this one in one to forget? I don't know. I think I'm going to put it in underwhelming for now. I don't think it was quite a disaster because he did do a lot better at the end there. And it's your first, I'm not really factoring this in, but it was his first playoff game. You expect there to be some sort of low points there. So, okay, that happened. We're questioning how good or bad is Lamar. And then he's amazing. Then it goes to the next season where he is just awesome. They're blowing out everybody. The Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl. Oh my God, this is an amazing run that this team is going on. And then they go to the Titans go to Baltimore. Titans feeling good. They had just ended Tom Brady's career in New England, right? So they're feeling all right. But still, go to Baltimore and they just kind of dominate the Ravens. And Lamar doesn't go well. And this was what we would start to become a trend with the Ravens is the Titans said, hey, let's just try playing man coverage against this Ravens receiving corps that isn't very good. Sure, Lamar will run on us here and there, but we just won't let them do anything else. And it worked out really well. I mean, again, it's one of those things where it wasn't a good situation, and I don't think it was all Lamar's fault. I don't think Lamar was a disaster in this game, but they just couldn't get much offense going. And even though I thought Lamar made some plays when he, had to, not enough, but he did do a lot of really good stuff. He had 140 rushing yards in this game. He was doing what he could. There wasn't enough opportunities for him because guys weren't getting open. I'm going to put it in underwhelming because I think it was more about the situation than him, but he wasn't great in this one. So then we go to the next year where, oh my God, they're about to play. Oh, I realized I put these out of order, or maybe I grabbed the wrong one. But obviously it's the playoff loss is the one that's an underwhelming. Then we go to the next year when, Ravens aren't as good. Lamar isn't as good. And people are wondering, was the MVP season a bit of a fluke? Going to play the Titans once again, this time on the road to play the Tennessee Titans. This was an interesting game. And even though the box score isn't great for Lamar, he had a 74.8 passer rating, which isn't ideal. In fact, he's only had one game where he's had a passer rating over 80 in the playoffs, which is interesting. But even though the box score numbers weren't great, he had this one rush that was like just one of those absurd like 50-yard runs that kind of iced things for the Titans. This was a good game. This wasn't one of his best like games he's played in the NFL, but like I thought he was really good in this game. I thought he did it better than what expectations were, and this is definitely a feather in his cap, I would say. So that was good, and it kind of, it was maybe nice for him to get to play a wild card game, because that's one of the things, part of why he's only had 6 games is they've gotten to 1 seed twice, so you don't get those wild card games. Don't get to boost up those numbers the way some other guys do. So, okay, that was good. Hey, you've exceeded expectations. They weren't expected to beat the Bills, but things did not go well in this Bills game. And it was really, they were not getting anything going offensively. And again, a lot of it was situation. It just was. The situation wasn't, it was bad weather and guys weren't getting open. Like, as a quarterback, there's only so much you can do, but you just can't throw it at an interception. He threw a pick six, like a 100-yard pick six that, they were maybe going to tie the game. Instead, they find themselves down 14 points. So because of that, I think I got to put this one in one to forget. I mean, he threw 1 touchdown in the game, and it was to the other team, and they lost 17-3. So sure, there's plenty of things you can point to and say, well, this is the reason why things went wrong. But at the end of the day, the results are the results. So while I don't think it was all his fault, I'm still putting it in that tier. And then we have this most recent year, where again, so I mean, it's worth mentioning. There's a bit of a jump actually, because in 2021, it looks like they're going to make the playoffs. He gets hurt towards the end of the year. They don't make the playoffs. 2022, looks like they're going to make the playoffs. They do make the playoffs, but he gets hurt towards the end of the year. Tyler Huntley comes in. And neither of these 2 years he was at MVP level. It's a stat that people like to throw around, like, oh, every Ravens fans like to throw around. Every year he's been healthy, he's been an MVP candidate. It's like, well, okay, sure, but really he went through a stretch where he wasn't playing like an MVP candidate. Like, he wasn't playing like an MVP candidate these years, and then he got injured, right? But then last year happens. And now he's not just playing like an MVP candidate. He is the MVP. He wins MVP yet again, goes to, stays home. But Houston comes to him, and they were just dominant. On all facets of this game, the Ravens were dominant. To me, this is one of his best. I think he was really good in this game. I don't think this was his best game. I'll say that. I do think that it was kind of a situation where he just, simply was able to get the things done that they needed to get done. But, like, I think they just had 3 possessions in the second half because they were just running out so much clock. And then, they scored touchdowns on every drive, and, that was it. It was interesting because it was actually a competitive game for the first half. And I think we were wondering, is this going to happen again with the Ravens? But no, it's a new era. Until it wasn't. And it's also worth mentioning that was a divisional round. So, we're talking about a good, further into the playoffs at this point. So we're feeling good. And then the conference championship happens and just everything goes wrong. And listen, once again, guys weren't getting open consistently. And to me, what this should tell you more than anything is, oh my God, the Ravens have to do better at getting receivers, because how many of these games do we say guys weren't getting open? But, at the same time, it's just it's similar to that Buffalo Bills game where it's we can sit here and say all the excuses, and the excuses are fair, but you still threw into triple coverage down 2 scores late in the game where you needed at least a score there. There still were too many mistakes. This is another one to forget for Lamar. So in the playoffs, Lamar hasn't been a disaster every game, but in my opinion, in the majority of these games, he has been underwhelming, and they've lost those games. I mean, I think 2 things can be true. I think for one thing, it kind of says that if Lamar doesn't have a good game, this Ravens team isn't built to win playoff games without Lamar playing well. That's just a part of it. And I do think that, again, when you get good teams that don't give you the little edges that other teams do, you're going to be in trouble. But also, is there some truth to Lamar maybe taking a step back in the playoffs? I think you can certainly say that, given that I have negative feelings towards 4 out of his 6 games. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.